Hey everyone, Pugs here with two new reviews for y'all. Today I'm covering Greasy Buffoons and Model Sponge. Are these our first two forgettable episodes of season 7? Nah. I don't think so. I feel like people are at the very least familiar with Greasy Buffoons. Okay, maybe Model Sponge is forgettable. Okay, none of this is important. Let me just move on because clearly I've got nothing to say for this introduction. So, as always, thank you all for watching today, and now let's just get right into it. Starting us off today is Greasy Buffoons. This is an episode that I remember not really having any strong opinions about. Like, I always felt positively towards this episode, I always at least liked it, but I didn't feel strongly one way or another. At least that is until I did these reviews. Now, my feelings still aren't incredibly strong, but they are stronger. And this episode does have one of my favorite jokes in the show, which I'll get to later, so that's a bonus for sure. The beginning of Greasy Buffoons is so very relatable to me, from both a customer and employee perspective. On one hand, I'm so bad at making quick decisions about my food, although I always go up to the register prepared, so I don't do what the customer is doing here. On the other hand, I know exactly what it's like to help someone who's being slow as hell to make a decision. This part reminds me a lot of Krusty Krab training video. The way SpongeBob so seriously cooks the patty and fries here is also very fun, especially when it's completely halted by SpongeBob slipping on the grease. And then I love how Mr. Krabs asks Squidward what's going on, and Squidward doesn't say anything, and Mr. Krabs is so used to this, he just goes straight to asking SpongeBob. It gives the air of familiarity between all these characters, and I like that. Also, it's funny. So, the grease around the Krusty Krab is a problem, and Mr. Krabs shows SpongeBob this very large grease trap, and oh my god, that shit makes me want to throw up. Not actually throw up, like, this isn't drawn gross or anything, and I'm not saying this to say that this is a detractor for this episode, but like, can you imagine seeing that much grease in one place? Fucking nasty. This part is also where one of my favorite jokes comes in, when Squidward just fades out of existence when Mr. Krabs asks for someone to clean the grease trap for no extra pay. Like, that's hilarious. And also incredibly relatable because you will never catch me doing something like that for my boss, especially when there's no pay involved. Greasy Buffoons takes a turn when SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs dump the grease behind the chum bucket, because I was not expecting Plankton to show up in this episode. I'm not quite at the point where I should really be thinking about this yet, but I can't help but start to wonder whether I should be concerned about Plankton showing up for 3 episodes in a row. I don't think it's necessarily concerning as long as all 3 episodes aren't Plankton plots, and they aren't. And, I mean, that goes for anything. Either vary the plot, vary the characters, or even better, both, and you'll have no issues from me. Anyway, I think it's funny that SpongeBob ended up driving the truck to move the grease here, because, hello, he can't drive. It's funnier to imagine that SpongeBob can drive anything except a normal boat. I mean, the first movie supports me on that one, so I'm basically right. From here, the episode surprisingly turns into a little bit of a chum bucket business practices type of episode, at least for a little bit, and not entirely since the focus is still on Mr. Krabs. This is a good way to have this episode stand out, I'd say. Also, I once again think Bikini Bottomites are nasty-ass fools, because why are y'all buying grease to eat? Just revolting and trifling. I mean, yeah, they don't know it's grease, but they gotta realize that, right? Clearly not, though, because the episode becomes a competition between Mr. Krabs and Plankton, where they increasingly try to get people to eat their greasy food. Ew. But in a good way, not the Splinter way. Also, I love how grease is used as the bubble transition, like, that was brilliant. Thankfully, at least SpongeBob is here to speak some sense, talking about the healthiness, or lack thereof, of this competition between the business rivals. Mr. Krabs also has some good interactions with SpongeBob and Squidward as the episode progresses, and I love it. Y'all know I love that good dialogue humor. And I loved the whole lying down bit with Plankton. This episode just has really good humor overall. Another thing that I love about this episode is that SpongeBob stands on business. I'm very much welcoming the return of this, and I love how, just like in No Hat for Pat, his moral line is triggered by Patrick being affected by Mr. Krabs' actions. Of course, SpongeBob expressed his reservations beforehand, but it's seeing Patrick that inspires him into action. That's what we like to see. And just like in Nasty Patty, I love how seriously the health inspector is taken here. Yeah, get these people in line. Mr. Krabs and Plankton working together to silence SpongeBob is entertaining, and I love how it doesn't even work in the end, so it doesn't end up frustrating me. More of this, please. The episode then ends with SpongeBob fixing the problem for Mr. Krabs. From a story standpoint, it would have been better for Mr. Krabs and Plankton to both have to fix the problem, but I mean, I'm happy with this too because SpongeBob is happy with it. And the episode ending with Patrick just trying to eat all the grease off of SpongeBob is random, but I like it, especially with Mr. Krabs' unreadable reaction. I quite enjoy Greasy Buffoons. Like the episode before it, it's simply good and fun, and I just love that. I love speaking positively about this show, after all. This episode is even better than the last one, too, and I have no problems with this episode at all. It's hilarious from beginning to end and continues to be very amusing and enjoyable throughout. All hallmarks of an episode befitting of my amazing tier, where this episode is landing with a score of 9.4 out of 10. The second episode of today is what I believe is the first forgettable one of Season 7, Model Sponge. Now, I do actually remember this episode well, but like I said earlier, I don't think it's very talked about, hence the forgettable moniker I've ascribed to it. Personally, though, I don't think this episode is actually forgettable or even unremarkable. I also don't think that this episode is a clone of As Seen on TV, which is something that I have seen some people argue. Sure, Model Sponge has some similar elements, but I would never call it a ripoff, and not just because I rarely ever call things ripoffs. One fun thing that I like about this episode is that it uses the fact that SpongeBob is, well, a sponge. I like when episodes do that, and this episode places that little fact front and center, like making it at least part of the basis for the plot, which isn't something that's done very often. I feel like the last time it was done in such a blatant way like this was probably Suds, but maybe there are others that I'm forgetting about. This beginning scene of SpongeBob cleaning the mirror is fun, and I love how he trash talks it before cleaning it. This all reminds me of the Krusty Plate. And saying that makes me miss those shorts so much, please bring them back. This episode also involves SpongeBob being a little more full of himself than usual, and that's not typically a characterization I enjoy, as I've definitely said before, unless it's done well. This is why As Seen on TV only got a good tier rating, if you may recall. So far, in this episode at least, the characterization ain't too bad. SpongeBob's insecurity is also tapped into a bit in this episode, which is something that I feel like I haven't properly seen since Season 5. Not that this is a character quality I adore either, but like him being full of himself, which is to compensate for his insecurity in this episode, it can be done well. Really, it seems like Model Sponge is drawing on quite a few elements of this show that we haven't seen in a while, and I think that this is at the very least interesting, if not exciting. Model Sponge also provides some nice dramatic irony in that we find out that the little guy Mr. Krabs is referring to letting go of is predictably not SpongeBob, but rather a scallop. And then we get a Gary appearance, which is one of those things that's an instant win in my books. I've been missing my little guy. And yes, I realize the irony in me calling him that. Patrick's surprise appearance in this episode is pretty good too, thankfully, and I love how he's like, sorry to interrupt your fit of self-loathing, to SpongeBob. And the part where he's like, you can still buy food for me, is hilarious. And then I love how he and SpongeBob get all into the melodrama together once he realizes that SpongeBob can't buy food for anybody because he thinks he's broke and unemployed. Damn, not even in Bikini Bottom can you get by without a job. Except you can, because Patrick does. Anyway, I also love that Patrick is legitimately trying to support SpongeBob here. I needed this so bad after that episode. Y'all already know what I'm talking about. Another thing I like about this episode is that we're leaning all the way into that adult side of the child-adult line that I haven't referred to in a while. Especially when SpongeBob starts woefully talking about how he won't have money to buy anything. Like, woo, that just got real for a second, as I kind of already made a joke about that. And we also see SpongeBob deal with perceived unemployment and looking for a job in the newspaper. Seeing SpongeBob try out some different jobs is interesting since we've seen him work almost exclusively at the Krusty Krab for 7 seasons straight now, so it's nice to see something new. I loved the reference to missing identity in the bank teller part as well, and, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I better start making a list of these references so that I have it when I talk to people who think that the newer seasons reference the old seasons too much. Nah, I don't actually talk to those people anyway. But seriously, I know that this middle era of the show doesn't do as much referencing as the newest episodes do, but it's still absolutely engaged in the practice of self-reference and Easter egg planting. This show has always done references. Anyway, back to the actual point of these scenes. I love how consistent this show is, with SpongeBob being literally unable to do anything else but be a fry cook. It's funny every time. Is that me giving an opinion to SpongeBob you're fired in advance? No comment. So, I already said this, but like, I really am just sagging in relief right now at how much I like Patrick's supporting appearance in this episode. How long has it been since I didn't even have to qualify that statement? I also think that this shows that despite popular belief, Patrick did not become the worst character on Earth in seasons 5 or 6, and then he, never had any good appearances afterwards. I've seen plenty of good showings from him since season 5. And yes, I've seen plenty of bad too, but more importantly, there's been plenty of good. Model Sponge hits a snag when for some reason it starts bringing in the annoying noises that I hate when SpongeBob starts to sing. Why are we doing that? Can we please, please, please stop doing that? At least there are some fun visuals here to go along with the noises, and the way that the lady at the desk roasts SpongeBob is hilarious, so that helps make this score, or makes this scene better. Once SpongeBob gets to the audition, that utter confidence that he has in himself returns, and he starts pulling a bit of an as seen on TV. And you know what? I like it. Firstly, it feels earned, but more importantly, it's probably because he's not pulling a porous pockets by being an ass to Patrick in the process. We then reach the shoot, which turns out to be for a commercial, wherein SpongeBob is supposed to be his kitchen sponge self. Now, y'all know me, I've said this many times. I'm not a fan of SpongeBob being gratuitously naked. However, this episode does it in such a funny way that I actually don't mind it for once. The director here is absolutely hysterical, and I love how this whole shoot is basically a callback to Suds, Hans and all. Hans really gets around, working at the doctor's office, now working on a commercial shoot. He's really booked and busy. The commercial scene is also just hilarious. Poor SpongeBob. And, this reminds me of that one fake ad from Mad, the Cartoon Network show. I suppose that technically that bit could have been influenced by this episode, but I think it was more influenced by SpongeBob in general. If you haven't seen the bit, please do. It's hilarious. It's in the description like usual. Also, I just find the whole show to be hysterical. Eventually, poor SpongeBob has enough of being manhandled, his breaking point being almost forced to clean a nasty, disgusting toilet, and we reach the end of the episode. I love how Mr. Krabs is extremely confused here when SpongeBob comes crawling back for his job, but the cheap crab just turns the situation to his advantage. At least SpongeBob gets to use tools to clean the toilet this time, and then I love how Hans is just randomly in the bathroom as the episode ends. Great ending. I really liked Model Sponge. This episode is really funny, really enjoyable, and fills me with satisfaction and glee in seeing both my boy Gary and a really supportive Patrick. This episode is like a balm for the hurts that I've been exposed to. So let me just go ahead and say that this episode is being put in my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9.3 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this video with some closing thoughts of mine. Well, looks like season 7 might just be getting back on track, because that's 3 really good episodes that we've had in a row now. I just gotta ask, can we keep this streak going? I could answer that question now, but I'll just let y'all wonder about it. How about that? The other day I was on Twitter, and there was this tweet going around talking about how it's heartbreaking when something you like gets a video essay made on it that's really popular and ends up influencing the discourse around it for the next 6 or so years. The tweet didn't say it, but most people took it as a negative video essay that then makes people dislike whatever it is you like for reasons that you most likely disagree with. While I think that this specific phenomenon has not happened even remotely as many times as people think, I think Steven Universe and maybe Doctor Who were the only shows to experience this that I know of. I do believe that something similar happened with SpongeBob SquarePants. I mean, I've said this multiple times. The mid-2010s cartoon reviewers decimated the reputation of this show, and it's not that everyone watched the reviews and then had the opinions, but it's more that a lot of people watched the reviewers, then spread their opinions online and in person, which got more people to believe them, and then suddenly they're now the prevailing thought. That's why I'd say that the video essay thing did legitimately happen with Steven Universe, and also why I don't think it actually happened with Gravity Falls and that one video about Mabel, because those had been prevailing opinions for years at that point. But I could really go on and on about this topic all day, and it's only tangentially related to SpongeBob. I just thought it was a neat thing to bring up for today's closing thoughts. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and end things here before I really get to yapping, and I'll see you all in the next review.